And this movie, very effective. I would say it's up there with The Conjuring 2 as my favorite horror movies of the year. Looking over this summer, I would say, I know you didn't really like Lights Out. I didn't love it. I thought it was kind of an effective movie, but the horror genre, I would say, was the most consistent genre so far this summer. I would say the 3 or 4 horror movies that came out were pretty decent.
Most lucrative, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Lights Out was made for like $4.9 million, made 18 times its budget or some shit like that.
Yeah, at the time of recording this right now, Don't Breathe costs less than 10 and has made 50-something million already, and its dip. Horror movies are notorious for dipping well over 50%, sometimes 70% in their second weekend. This one had like a 40% drop. It's really holding on.
Good.
So it's gonna have some good legs, and it's worth it, man. It's a very simple story of these low-life kind of criminal people who are trying to get out of this small town. So they decide that they want to, this one big score, they're gonna rob this blind man of this inheritance that he supposedly has in his house.
Yep.
Once they get in there, though, they realize that they grossly underestimated what this guy's capable of, and he starts to fight back, and the victims become, or I guess the criminals become the victims in this.
Yeah. Fede Alvarez, it looked like he was just aping, when he made Evil Dead remake, aping Sam Raimi's style. But it's clear that Raimi was looking and found him because of his certain style.
But there's also shots that are almost taken right out of David Fincher films. I won't give you what character or what happens, but a gunshot goes off in someone's mouth, almost very reminiscent to the Fight Club slow motion, and just the slow, everything's cool and desaturated, and everything's very calm. And I love the beginning where they're going around this house, and it keeps kind of slowly pausing on things you know are going to come up later on, but it's not
overbearing.
Yeah, it's not force feeding its audience this thing. It's just like, pay attention. This shit's gonna matter later on. I really like that. And the casting, Jane Levy, who was also in Evil Dead, really good. Dylan Minnette, who's in Goosebumps.
Yeah.
I've seen him in a few other things. Sure. He's really good in this movie. I liked him probably the most out of everyone.
Yep.
But yeah, I loved it takes a darker turn towards the end where something gets revealed of his real intentions, what he's been doing. And I liked that a lot. It took me out, like I really did not see that coming, what he was supposed to be doing. But yeah, man, I really want to see a movie with Stephen Lang and Robert Patrick, because they're just two, I always mistake those two. I always mistake them growing up. I don't know, they don't look anything alike, but they always play that archetype of the just asshole who loves being an asshole. The scenes in which the characters are moving in and out of this house and they're trying to be quiet as he's moving past them, and it's really well done. It's a cool take on kind of making a boogeyman more accessible, I guess, and relatable. But yeah, I really dug this. This is a movie I'll definitely be picking up on Blu-ray, and it's a welcomed surprise at the end of this shitty movie summer.
Sure.
Don't breathe, Jamie. Some other theatrical releases. I know you checked out one and I checked out one. Let's talk about the better one after. But I will say I was pleasantly surprised with Bad Moms. I checked out Bad Moms in theaters. This movie just crossed the 100 million mark, which they were not expecting at all. And I wouldn't put it in the league of female comedies of like Bridesmaids, but it is pretty funny. Mila Kunis, Kristen Bell, and Kathryn Hahn, who steals every scene she's in. She's the best part of this movie.
She's great.
But they're really funny. They have a good interplay amongst each other. And it's basically about, all these moms operating in this, the 21st century, how you're not supposed to slap your kids and you have to do all this stuff that's almost making being a mom impossible this day and age. And so eventually these 3 moms are just like, fuck it, I'm done doing this. So they let their kids pretty much like run their own lives, and they just decide they're going to do whatever they want to do for the next whatever. So yeah, they do drugs, they get, they're getting high, getting drunk and partying. And it takes a familiar concept, almost like a Sisters. I would say it's about as good as that movie, but not quite as good as a Bridesmaids. It's got a really good supporting cast. Christina Applegate's really funny in it. Jada Pinkett Smith, Jay Hernandez is in there for a little bit.
Oh, weird.
It's got a good little cast, and it's written by the guys who made The Hangover. They made it for their wives, I guess. They wrote it specifically for their wives, and it's fine. It's one of those movies you catch on cable one day, and it's perfectly in and out of your brain. You completely forget it.
Like Hall Pass.
Definitely like Hall Pass. It's like a female Hall Pass, really. Yeah. But yeah, it was fine. Not too bad. But tell me about this next movie, because I've been wanting, as of now, a lot of people calling this the only Oscar contender so far this summer, anyway. But tell me about it.
And that is Florence Foster Jenkins. I haven't seen that. Yeah, what I saw was the recently released Hell or High Water, starring Chris Pine and Ben Foster as brothers. Ben Foster, he gets out of prison for a murder. you find out later on it's a family member, but the mother recently died as well, but they're in danger of losing their family ranch, which the mother had run for a while. And it's pretty much a dirt farm. There's nothing going on in that ranch, but they want to keep it because it's important to the family. So they, Chris Pine, the smarter one, forms like a plan to rob some certain banks, the ones that were actually holding this reverse mortgage over their heads. And they slowly hit these banks. These small branches will have like no one in the population because the banks have taken out the entire town, like all their mortgages and all their leases. And so it's a really cool idea. It has a lot of social commentary, but man, it is like a crime. It's a heist movie. It's such a great dramatic crime like film, and like the Texas backdrop is such a character in the film. Every single supporting character, every single character, he's fucking amazing.
Okay, because Jeff Bridges is in there, right?
I'm not
pursuing them.
yet.
Okay,
I'm talking about the like, here's 1-2 line person.
Oh wow, okay.
Like the waitress steals her scene. Like everybody like who lives in that town, lives and breathes Texas and Texan spirit. So it's a really cool concept and a cool setting. But then Jeff Bridges is the soon-to-be retired deputy, Texas Ranger, and you think like the story is so cookie cutter. Yeah, you think it is, but then it's so smart in how it. I mean, their motivations. Every character has really good, strong motivations. Every character's dialogue is so well written. It's a really funny movie. It has no right to be this funny. Okay. But Jeff Bridges has a partner who is half Mexican, half Indian. Okay. And Jeff Bridges essentially rags on the entire film of his Indian heritage and his freaking Mexican heritage. It's so kind of like borderline racist, but it's kind of play for laughs.
No, they're able to walk that line, though, which is hard.
Right, it is.
And it's written by the guy who did Sicario, I believe. Tyler Sheridan? Okay.
Taylor Sheridan, yep. If any piece of it was different, I think it would fall more into that cookie cutter, you know, here's a good fun flick, you forget about it kind of thing. But it elevates the material, and everybody is bringing their A game. Chris Pine, I've never seen him do a better performance than this. Okay. Ben Foster always kills it. Yep. And Jeff Bridges, it's like perfectly written for this guy. Okay. I mean, it's like his his kind of mumble dude vibe into a Texas Ranger.
True Grit version.
Yeah. And it's so well crafted, so well written. I mean, this film is going to definitely get some awards. I would not be surprised if all of the people across the board, if it gets screenplay, director, both supporting actors, Bridges and Ben Foster, and then Pine gets a nomination for lead, because honestly, this fucking film deserves it. Wow. Seriously.
That's what I've been told. Yeah, it's one of the best movies of the year, and it's one of the only ones I was looking forward to in August. So, all right, I will definitely be checking this out. I didn't check out any other movies in theaters. I did watch a few movies that were new to me at home. The first one that I checked out was a DVD that I bought a little while ago, and it was Kinsey. Liam Neeson plays, I think it's Alfred Kinsey. I don't know the exact year it takes place off the top of my head. I watched it like 2 weeks ago, but it operates in the world where people literally don't understand sex. They don't want it in the household, like only after you're married, and even then it's not. There's a really funny scene where he's talking to John Krasinski, who has this quick little cameo with him with his wife. They're just married and they're talking about what they can do for sex, and he's like, well, have you ever tried oral? And everyone thinks oral sex literally causes like diseases later on. Like there's so much misinformation. And so this is the guy who really like broke down all those barriers and studied. So there was no, he started off studying insects, and then once he realized that no one had ever done studies on sex before, he decided like, fuck it, I'll just do it. And so he starts to pretty much interview thousands and thousands of people all over the country about their sexual habits and what people aren't telling people, and it's all confidential. And then it starts to deal with the uprise of like homosexuality and what people are really doing behind closed doors that they'd never tell anybody. And it's fascinating. It's really good. It's got a good supporting cast. Peter Sarsgaard, who I've always just hated his face. Yeah. He's one of those actors I've always disliked, but he's a good actor. But again, in this movie too, he just something about his face. Chris O'Donnell's in there for a little bit. Laura Linney plays his wife, who's really good. It's well done. It's directed by Bill Condon, who did
one of the Twilights.
Don't start off with that.
Sorry.
But no, he's done was nominated for a couple of Academy. Dreamgirls. There we go. He did Dreamgirls. He's done a couple of bigger movies. He's doing the Beauty and the Beast remake.
Right. Yes, he is.
But yeah, it's a pretty simple story. It covers, you know, I probably had to say like 10 to 20 years of his life, but it also goes back to like him as a kid.
He was jerking off and stuff?
He was he's raised by John Lithgow, his dad, who's this crazy conservative preacher who's like insane.
So he's the guy from Footloose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't dance, you can't have sex. It's a terrible town, terrible place to live. But it's good. I enjoyed it.
Cool. I watched a film I had seen before last year, actually, with you. The 2014 release of The Guest for our podcast, and man, we watched. So I remember when we watched it, we were all sitting around the TV, and I was like cracking jokes, and you're all trying to be serious and watch a movie. This time watching it with John and August, we were all like cracking jokes and having a fucking ball, but we loved it.
Yeah,
I realized how funny it was. Dan Stevens is who's now starring a TV show, an X-Men spinoff called Legion.
Oh, okay.
On FX.
And he's the Beast.
Yeah, he's the Beast as well in the Bill Condon film. But no, it was such a crazy like thriller that, in a way, feels like Drive sometimes, and then feels like
John Carpenter, very John Carpenter-esque.
Somewhat John Wick-ish, but it was before John Wick.
Yeah.
Similar time frame, but it's just a fun action movie. It's a really good time. I mean, it's over the top, and the soundtrack is great. 80s.
Oh, I love it.
And I would recommend it to anyone.
Set around Halloween time, another huge benefit for me. I also love, that score, and I love the cinematography in this. It's really good. I love that shot. One of my favorite shots of the past like couple of years is when she's on the bed, it pulls out, and it comes into the next room, and he's fucking staring at the camera. It's just really good. So good. And the sound's building and building. It's
and then
really
it just
good.
cuts.
Yeah. So good, yeah. Those weird like wah sounds that they put in the background. Yeah, really just the color, the aesthetic of it all. It's an underrated little movie that not a lot of people are talking about.
I mean, Adam Wingard has killed it. I mean, between that, You're Next, and now he's doing The Blair Witch.
The other new movie that I checked out was Love and Mercy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Paul Dano and John Cusack play Brian Wilson.
Yeah.
Yes, of the Beach Boys. Two fantastic performances. They look nothing alike, and you don't understand how Paul Dano turns into John Cusack in 20 years, but that doesn't matter. But it follows Brian Wilson after the Beach Boys. It's interesting because it doesn't do the whole thing where they start up the band of the Beach Boys. It starts off with him already in the Beach Boys, and he's getting tired of singing about. There's a really great scene. He's like, I can't sing about summer and fun and beaches. He's like, there's nothing left to say. I just want to do this. And his dad is kind of the manager, so they kind of fire him because they want to move in a different direction with their music. And it's kind of about his evolution and how everyone sees him as just an insane person. And because he slowly starts to develop, he hears people's voices when no one's around, and he hears these sounds that he can create into music that no one else understands. So he's adding instruments that aren't instruments, and people are like, he wants orchestras and all this crazy shit, and people are like, I don't understand what you're doing. Everyone thinks he's insane. And it flashes forward to, it keeps cutting back and forth to John Cusack, who's now living under the control of Paul Giamatti, who is his fucking insane manager, who I can't stress enough how great Paul Giamatti is in this movie. He's great always, but he is so venomous and like crazy in this movie because he convinces John Cusack that he is crazy and that he needs Paul Giamatti in his life to like live. And so when he falls in love with Elizabeth Banks, who plays this car salesman, she was the only other person in his life who's like, you have to, like, this guy is insane. Like he forces him to like, take all this medication, so he's always drugged up, and like he can't see. He's convinced him that he has paranoid schizophrenia and all kinds of crazy shit. But it's a really good, true story, great performances, and I love the aspect of someone who is told that they have this medical condition and they start to believe it, and there's no way out. Like he just feels like there's no possible way to get out of this situation, so he just accepts it. And there's that whole thing. It doesn't really cover that part in his life, but most people know Brian Wilson literally stayed in a bed for 3 years. Like, he would get up, he would not leave his house. He just got fat. He just ate and lived in his bed. And that was partly because of Paul Giamatti's character. Really, really crazy, dude. Definitely worth watching if you're a fan of the music, if you're a fan of the actors. I like that they used a lot of the music, and they didn't do what I was worried they were going to do. Is Paul Dano cannot sing like Brian Wilson, and that's nothing against Paul Dano. It's just there's no way you can sing that high and that pitch. There are certain times where when he's practicing, he'll sing in Paul Dano's voice because it's not supposed to. He's just practicing like fucking around. But whenever they do a song, he's lip syncing. He does it perfectly, and it doesn't take you out of the movie. But I hate that in movies when there's a clear sound that you recognize and you associate with a band or some sort of artist, and then when they redo it in the movie, it's either really different or you just feel like, no, that person's clearly not singing. But it's good. Then I rewatched a couple of movies, and I think these are movies that you've seen,
Hopefully.
Jamie. You have all of these, so we can actually talk about them. The first one I haven't seen since theaters, and it was Steve Jobs.
See, I was going to reference this as you were talking about Love and Mercy because of the way they cut back and forth.
Yes.
I like seeing somebody in different stages of their life, and this film was revolutionary to me in the fact that they went in the precursor of these 3 major product launches of Steve Jobs' career. So they took this entire frame of his relationship with his daughter and his ex-wife, or I don't think they ever married, but
yeah.
So of course Kate Winslet and Seth Rogen, like the relationships he has with these people, are shown in 3 different times, like within a 15-year gap, I think. 84, 80, 88 when the Newton came out, and then
it's like 99. Yes. Yep.
90, yeah. So when the iMac came out, and it's a cool idea because it shows it truncates that relationship or those relationships into these major financial and business launches in this guy's life, and how his relationship with his daughter Lisa kind of fed into the name Lisa and all these kinds of things. Like, he wanted to impress them, but he didn't know how to kind of give that emotion. So he was so dedicated to his work, he used his work as a proxy for that emotion. And it's really interesting, like, just the 3 arcs, the 3 different launches. That's all I got.
I love how they structured this movie. A lot of people disliked it, and they were like, it's so stupid that all of these things would happen before these product launches. Of course they didn't, but it's an interesting way to tell the story. I didn't want to see the Ashton Kutcher Jobs where it's just, oh, this is how we developed Apple, and the same shit you've seen again and again. This was something very different. It has, I would say, probably 5 or 6 just flat out amazing dialogue sequences. There's one between him and Jeff Daniels. There's one between him and Seth Rogen towards the end. He has one with almost every character, but those 2 in particular are some of the most fantastic acting and line deliveries.
I mean, Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah, Aaron Sorkin, writer of Social Network, The West Wing. So it's all that very fast, snippy dialogue. And it's funny because if you were to look at an Aaron Sorkin script, it's probably double the length of a normal script, but everyone talks so extremely fast that it blows by. But it's so intelligently written, and I love when movies speak this dialogue that, not a lot of people would really talk in their day-to-day life like this, but it's just so good to hear, and it's just, the dialogue is what moves these stories forward. It's not necessarily the characters' actions. I love that about this movie.
Good stuff.
And the fact that this one wasn't even nominated for Best Picture, and that it didn't win anything, and it was just completely forgotten, died at the box office. Like, this was a complete travesty.
It'll be a cult hit. I mean, when people realize that it wasn't as bad as they thought it was.
God, they should, man. I guess it's just because it was had this been released, I guess, before the Ashton Kutcher one, it might not have that weird. But
it was 2 years later.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It was right off the heels.
Yeah, and it's a completely different movie. I also loved how they shot each of the 3 time differences in different formats. So one of them was shot on 16mm film, the other one's shot on digital once it gets closer to 99. The
most prominent medium of each
decade, I guess. Yeah. Very cool though. The other one I rewatched was Trainwreck. Hadn't seen this since theaters. Watch this again.
Sexual relations.
LeBron James, he's really funny in this movie, but I thought it was very simple and something we had definitely seen before, but it was just a simple gender swap. It's really just a guy who falls in love with this girl and wants her to like him, much like you've seen all of these, comedies from, you just picture like a Ryan Reynolds playing this type of character if it was made, if the roles were reversed, but she just does not like commitment. She was raised by Colin Quinn, who kind of teaches her earlier on that monogamy is not realistic, and her sister, who grows up to be Brie Larson, is very the opposite of that, where she wants to be married. She's married and has a kid, and it's just very good, man. I like the supporting cast is really good. It does that Judd Apatow thing where it's probably half an hour too long. It really doesn't have to be as long as it is, but I would say, out of the pantheon of Judd Apatow movies, where do you put this? Out of his 4, I guess, major films.
It's hard to say because each film has its own not only time period but flaws that hold it back. Like, this film doesn't feel like an Apatow film because it's not written by him, and it's a big difference. Yeah, it is overlong, similar to like This Is 40 or Funny People, but I think it's the middle of the road because I really liked 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Yep.
I'm not sure if that's top or not. I, for some reason, fucking love Funny People.
Yeah, well, Funny People's really good. One that's definitely disliked by more people than.
It takes this dramatic tonal shift halfway through, and it kind of like, okay, but you go along with it, and I did, and I had a great time. But
oh yeah, This Is 40, and I forgot Knocked Up. You also did Knocked Up.
Knocked Up.
That's a great one too.
Yep.
Bill Hader, though, deserves more work in this type of light. Like, he's always the supporting character who's there for a couple of funny lines, but this is like his almost leading man status. He's the opposite. I mean, right up there with Amy Schumer, and he does great. He's really likable in this role. I also like Tilda Swinton, who plays her like boss. Yeah, almost unrecognizable.
I didn't know it was her until the end. Like,
because she looks so feminine. It's really bizarre.
To the guy from like fucking Snowpiercer or some shit.
And then speaking of the Lego Movie, I rewatched the Lego Movie.
Hey, Chris Pratt,
Liam Neeson,
Elizabeth Banks.
Great supporting cast, great talented voice cast, and I don't know if we've actually ever talked about the Lego Movie on this, but
what a way to fucking take an inane concept and fucking make a hell of a movie out of it.
This is the best product placement movie ever made, like the best possible version of a movie you could make off a toy.
But they take the thematic element of what Lego means, like creativity, a sense of wonder, and translate it to a film that invokes that, the master builders, and like everything about the film is so inventive and so childlike in terms of its scope. And I fell in love with this movie. Like, and then it cuts to like the spoilers at the end, that live action segment where it's like, oh my god, it's an imagination. Like, it's so fucking amazing.
It is.
I'm mad because that was the year that Big Hero 6 won.
This wasn't even nominated for Best Animated Feature.
I know.
It's a goddamn travesty.
Is it because of the live action segment? Because it's bullshit.
That's absolute nonsense. No, that can't be it. But yeah, really, and like this also features like the only voice performances by Morgan Freeman and Liam Neeson, two actors that you thought would have at this point been in something doing their voice. I mean, Liam Neeson's now got Monster Calls coming out. Yeah. But which also I just saw was pushed to awards contender season, so I think it was supposed to come out in October. They're pushing it, so that's good news. Good news. The last movie that I rewatched was, I think, another movie you've seen, and it's Compliance.
Seen them all.
Damn, dude, this movie is one of those movies that while you're watching it, even though it says inspired by true events in the beginning, you're like, this did not happen. There is no way this happened. Man. Then it gets to the end of the movie and they say, like, this has been reported like 70 times. Like, this has happened in so many states, and you're just like, ow, the fuck. But it's great. It's about this fast food chain who gets a call one day by this guy pretending to be a police officer saying a young girl stole money at the register, and it devolves into this just crazy evening at this restaurant where this woman is held out back by the manager, and this guy on the phone, who is not a police officer, just this prank caller pretty much, gets them to do such crazy things to this poor girl. And what's so interesting and compelling about the movie is our perception of authority and how far you would go to please, I guess, a police officer, or what you, like, some people, it's really funny, and it's also really cool, the generation gaps in this movie. Like, the older people are all like, yes, let's do this, and they give the phone to the younger guy, and he's like, what the fuck? No, I'm not doing this. Like, this is insane. And then I love also, not really spoilers, but towards the end, who actually saves the day, like the guy you would anticipate as being like the worst probably at this. But I'm being very vague because I don't want to spoil a lot. It's a movie that you really should just watch. Don't watch the trailers. It's a tense, hard to sit through movie at times.
It's interesting because, you have a lot of films that are anti-establishment, who are anachronist kind of a viewpoint on societal norms and authority. And this film is like the dark side of what happens if you do the exact opposite and follow every command. Like, it's a really stark and just an odd reminder that not everybody in authority is who they should be, and not everybody in authority is going to do the right thing, which is pretty cool.
Ann Dowd, I believe, plays the manager in this.
Yep.
She's fantastic, really, really good. And also Pat Healy, who plays in Cheap Thrills, which is also another movie you should check out.
Yep.
He's really creepy in this movie. But yeah, Just really good, underrated movie that came out, I think, 3 or 4 years ago.
2012.
It was, okay, yeah. It was on Netflix. I don't know if it's still on there, but...
It was on Amazon, too, when I saw it.
You should definitely check it out. It's one of those movies that's really disturbing, not a single scene of violence, though, which is rare for those type of movies. Normally it's the violence, and really there's not a lot of... It's not, like, overtly, grossly sexual or anything like that. It's just the interactions between the people that really creeps you the fuck out. Really good, though. But yeah, let's move on to the Blu-ray section. It's pretty light week. I only picked up the Jungle Book, man.
Oh, that's out.
And yeah, Jungle Book finally came out, guys. So check this out, dude. Watching the behind the scenes on this blew my goddamn mind. Like I knew some of how they made this movie, but there's a really nice little documentary on here hosted by Jon Favreau as he goes into as he goes into the behind the scenes of how this movie was made. Man, it's crazy. What's really cool about it is that it mirrors Walt Disney and the startup of Disney and how they'll go back to shots of like Disney like in this giant room like making all this crazy shit and people not believing in that it was going to work, and Jon Favreau kind of being like, you know, we're dealing with these same problems, just the technology's this much more advanced. So, but yeah, I can't say anything more about the Jungle Book.
I can.
Please do. It's one of my favorite movies of the year.
I roped this in with the recent Legend of Tarzan as just like this cash grab at some old property that's gonna make money, and it was so like, cause I was worried when I first heard about it, like, cause Favreau, I'm like, okay, what's he gonna do with this, like this property, like it's gonna be pretty low budget, like it'll probably be pretty shitty, not that Favreau's movies are, but I mean like that, and like I was thinking Tarzan, like, oh great, here we go, jungle shit, and then man, it quickly became one of my favorite movies of the year, and it's still up there. I think I don't know where it's gonna fall, but they took technology and boosted it to a level I had never seen before. And then they found this fucking crazy good actor, a child actor, in something Sethi.
Neil Sethi. He was acting off of nothing. Fucking tennis balls and shit.
Jesus, man. I guess we grew up in that day and age. We grew up with computers and video games anyway, so maybe it's easier for him. But yeah, he was just playing with nothing. And then the voice actors you don't hear often.
Nope.
Christopher Walken, Bill Murray. You don't hear of those. I mean, and actually Idris Elba. But that was the first of the 3 or 4 he's done this year.
Yeah,
and it was the first one.
Fantastic villain too. It's that darker Disney movie that we don't get that often. People die, or not people, but animals die, and it's just seamless. It's absolutely seamless, the effects. I haven't been this blown away in a theater experience in years. I guess I'd say Avatar, just because it was so different than what I'd seen before. But truly, this movie had the best 3D experience I've had in years. So Jamie, hit us up with some movie news and trailers.
All right, a couple weeks of stuff here. First off, let's start with some trailers. I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic for this film. It is the sequel / reboot of the horror franchise Rings.
Oh yes.
Did you see this?
I did see this.
There's some cool concepts, like the Samara film is on an airplane. It's on every seat on the airplane. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm worried it's just another fucking shit cash grab sequel. Yeah. It looks like it's gonna be that. Yeah, it doesn't have that same power the first one by Gore Verbinski. He didn't do the second one, right? I've never seen the second one because I just heard it wasn't good. Once it wasn't good. I didn't want to sully the reputation of the first one. Yeah. I really loved the Ring. I liked Ringu, which it was based off of. This one has a couple really cool visuals. I like the updates that they've done to the movie itself, the snake eating its own tail and stuff like that. There's some cool imagery in there. I like some of the burn marks, I guess, that they get in there. It's just, the story-wise, I haven't gotten much of it yet, but we'll see. I'm a sucker for theaters. We both are, so we're probably going to watch it. I'll check it out. Yep. You know, watch some horror movies. That's fun. I can't believe I didn't lead with this one, but Gene Wilder. Yeah. God damn, man. I mean, between Willy Wonka, Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein. I haven't seen like his films with Richard Pryor. Yeah, See No Evil. He's got a couple of those ones. They're crazy. Yep. But I've always been a fan of this guy. He's always seemed like a person who didn't fit in his surroundings. Well, he doesn't have that classic Hollywood beauty, I guess, that you'd associate with a lot of those leading actors. He just seemed like a guy that you literally could know down the road from you. And that's what I really gravitated towards, especially as a young kid. Willy Wonka freaked me the fuck out. Oh my God. But, he had such ferocity in 2 particular scenes. Obviously with the tunnel scene. Yeah. Like, he just took this fucking dark turn. And then in the end, my favorite scene of the film with him is when it's like, you get nothing. You know, like, he shuts this kid down, and then he has this, like, complete 180 when this kid's so noble and selfless. And it's a fucking I mean, that movie alone. If I'd never seen another Gene Wilder film, I'd still mourn him as much as I do now.
Oh, for sure.
But I'd recently caught up with Blazing Saddles and the producers and Young Frankenstein. I got the Mel Brooks collection in 3 years ago, and man, I completely missed out most of his career, and I really regret that. I'm going to go back and watch all of his other films, especially with Richard Pryor, because I heard that was a good pairing, like a Laurel and Hardy kind of pairing, or
I bet Abbott and Costello or something like that. That's the sad part, dude. We're coming up on an age where a lot of our favorite Hollywood stars are going to go, man. Like Clint Eastwood's in his 80s. Morgan Freeman's like 80 now. Like
Tom Cruise, you're next.
Tom Cruise is probably next. God damn it.
Everything's getting live action remakes now. Beauty and the Beast, Jungle Book,
Little Mermaid.
Little Mermaid.
Yep.
Well, Sam Mendes might be making a live action adaptation of James and the Giant Peach.
Oh, I did hear this. So James and the Giant Peach was not a box office success when it was released. It was directed by Henry Selick, did Nightmare Before Christmas and Coraline.
Yep.
I've always found this movie, and I haven't seen this movie in probably 15 years. Like, it's legit. I don't remember. Was it 99 this came out? 96. Wow.
Yeah.
This was like one of the first movies to incorporate live action and not computer, but claymation. It's a weird animation style, and I always remember finding it very bizarre as a kid. I want to revisit it. I own it on Blu-ray. I haven't watched it since I picked it up, but that's an interesting choice, man. I love Sam Mendes. Like, American Beauty, Road to Perdition, Jarhead. Like, he does this consistent, really good work.
Spectre.
Spectre.
No, that's bad.
But Skyfall was good.
Yep, Skyfall was great.
Yeah.
Speaking of directors, Ben Affleck directing Batman. He said that he had a teaser a week ago about Deathstroke being as potentially the main villain for the solo movie, but also in Justice League somehow.
I don't know much about this character. Can you tell me?
I don't know much about it.
Okay.
That's the inspiration of Deadpool. The parody, Marvel parodied DC, this character. Slade Wilson. Wade Wilson.
His name is Slade Wilson?
Slade Wilson. They straight up ripped him off, parodied him, and made Wade Wilson Deadpool.
Gosh, I wonder if they're going to change the name, or if that, like, after Deadpool,
so.
that's weird.
I don't think so.
Ben Affleck directing the Batman movie, I am so just hopeful that they can turn this around.
Well, you think about it, right? So Deathstroke is not necessarily like a super powered villain.
Yep, I like this.
He's like street level run and gun.
Yep.
Like the town, it reminds me of the town and how it's going to play out. And if Ben Affleck's doing that, no problem at all.
Well, I think Ben Affleck's going to ground this shit in reality, unlike Zack Snyder, who just keeps throwing fantastical bullshit. I think Ben Affleck can really save the DC universe.
Sure. And I think, because they're keeping grounded characters with the Joker. I mean, Killer Croc was a little out there, but...
Sure, but
in his film with Batman, I mean, I think it's going to do pretty damn well.
So wait, is the Joker in the Batman? Has that been confirmed?
They haven't said a damn thing about it yet.
Okay.
Which, I thought that was the idea, and then they kind of just shied away from it.
Yeah.
Much like 9 Lives, there was a film called A Dog's Purpose.
Oh my God, dude, I did see this, and the crazy part is everyone I've talked to so far is in love with this goddamn trailer. I've had 3 people, no joke, tell me how good this trailer is. You should watch this. I watched the trailer and was blown away that people like this. It's a goddamn dog narrating his life in different dog bodies.
He's reincarnated as like multiple dogs.
Is it Josh Gad?
Josh Gad.
God damn it. D. Quaid, though, dude, anytime Dennis Quaid's on screen, a welcomed presence. Yeah, it's a diamond in the rough, absolutely.
He's a gem in my heart. He's great.
Dennis Quaid, it'd only be better if Randy Quaid now was in it.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh my God, dude, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, dude. Get your brother in this movie.
Speaking of good pairings, that's who I want to see in a movie. Randy Quaid and Dennis Quaid.
Yeah, why not?
I'd watch that shit, dude. Quaid bros. Let the Quaid in.
So the Gambit film, another Marvel property, was Fox property, was being helmed by Doug Liman. He dropped out.
Gosh.
But so I don't know what's going on with that. If Channing Tatum's even still attached.
I was gonna say
he's been fighting for that forever. But Doug Liman is actually going to jump ship and direct the DC film Dark Universe, which is essentially Justice League Dark. So
that's right.
Swamp Thing,
Constantine.
Constantine, yep. So the darker side, the more supernatural elements of DC. I don't know why they're doing this. They did not learn a fucking thing from Suicide Squad. I think if they give it more time, it should be better. But these group movies, like, they don't get why Avengers was successful.
No.
They introduce people over time, and Man of Steel showed Superman, and everybody knows Batman, but to just jump and run with all these group films, like, without any really good backstory or setup, it's just not going to work.
I will say I like the characters they're using, and as a person who didn't really grow up with comic books a lot, I know Swamp Thing, Constantine. I know those characters. I've seen them, in other stuff.
Sure.
So I guess this one at least makes a little more sense than a Suicide Squad, just because you have a reference for a lot of the characters. At the same time, though, you're right. I don't know why they're not just giving half of these guys their own solo films, or if
They are eventually, if they make money.
Yeah, good God. I don't know about... I'm done.
And finally, big piece of news here. Jared Hess, director of Napoleon Dynamite, Nacho Libre.
Gentlemen Broncos.
I haven't seen that.
You shouldn't.
Or heard of it.
You don't need to.
He's going to direct a sequel to Shanghai Noon called Shanghai Done.
So he'll be... Wait, hang on. It went Shanghai Noon, Shanghai Nights, Shanghai Dawn.
Trilogy will be complete.
Finally, dude. I've been waiting
For like 10
years. Yeah, Jackie Chan, Owen Wilson.
Yes, and I'm excited to talk about this because that is a segue to our topic.
That is a good segue.
Jackie Chan recently starred in the film with Johnny Knoxville called Skip Trace. Actually, one of the biggest releases in China.
No
Made
shit.
a lot of fucking money.
Really?
Like over 100 million already.
What?
Not even fucking kidding.
That's insane. So we're talking inspired duos.
Yep.
So Jamie, I took this completely a different way than you did.
I doubt it.
I'm pretty sure I did, because I think you are picking people you want to see together. I picked people that I thought wouldn't work together and kind of did. I'm sorry, I guess I forgot our topic, but
cool.
that's okay. This will just be an interesting little topic. So,
Well, first I wanted to mention really good pairings that we didn't expect to be good. Weird ones that don't make sense. I mean, I guess you get into that, right?
that's kind of what I was doing, but I was going to say, if you got a couple.
I mean, obviously, I didn't get Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan, but then it was all right.
Yeah, no, they worked off well enough off each other.
I think to a lesser extent, Owen Wilson.
Yeah, no, I think Chris Tucker, at least in the first two Rush Hour movies, has a better chemistry with Jackie Chan.
Kind of cheating here, but Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey in True Detective.
Sure.
Good pairing.
Yeah.
Didn't expect that to be as good as it was.
Yep.
And speaking of Harrelson, him and Randy Quaid in fucking
Kingpin,
man. I love that pairing.
Yeah.
It's a great film.
That's pretty good. So I went with people who, two actors, most of them, I'm going through them, one of them is a comedian actor, one of them is a serious actor, and you don't think they're going to work, but they do. So I went through a couple of them, ones that I really did enjoy. Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell.
Yep.
They have lesser in Daddy's Home, more so in the other guys, but two guys that you really, you have to remember though at this point when the other guys came out, Mark Wahlberg did no comedy.
That was his
first comedy. Yeah, absolutely his first studio comedy, and he knocked it out of the park with Will Ferrell. They just have a great chemistry together. They work off each other well. Another one that's not necessarily a comedy, more of a dramedy, I guess, or more of a romantic dramedy, Kate Winslet and Jim Carrey. I never would have thought those two people working as well as they did in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. They had good chemistry. I believe that they were a couple, that they were in this relationship. Two actors that I just never pictured in a movie were Robert Downey Jr. and Zach Galifianakis.
Oh, Due Date?
I wouldn't say Due Date is a fantastic movie or even a good movie.
It's fun.
It's a fun movie though, and they're really good. They're the best part of the movie by far. It's pretty much a rehash of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but you can see a John Candy, Steve Martin working out. I did not anticipate Zach Galifianakis and Robert Downey Jr. working as well as they did.
Well, back then with Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, it was here's a comedian who's known for jovial character, and here's a biting, sarcastic, Steve Martin. But nowadays they're really trying to take these completely disparate people and put them together, and that was one of the pairings that really did work.
Leonardo DiCaprio and Jonah Hill in The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
They're fantastic. Like, they play best friends pretty much, and I bought it. If you told me, before that movie how well they'd work off each other, no goddamn way. But Jonah Hill not only, holds his own against Leonardo DiCaprio, but they have a really good chemistry that you believe that they're friends.
I wanted to talk about two really quick.
Yeah, no, please do.
That were not really good, but interesting to watch. So first off, the better of the two, Jeff Goldblum, Will Smith.
Yeah.
Independence Day.
Yeah.
It's like really fucking weird, but it works.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And one that is to a lesser extent works is Ryan Reynolds and Jeff Bridges.
Oh my God, R.I.P.D.
R.I.P.D.
Yeah.
I'm like, what a weird, those two really charismatic and or memorable people, and then they paired together. It's really weird. Like there were some movies like The Change Up. Jason Bateman and Ryan Reynolds are pretty much the same person.
Yeah, kind of makes sense.
In terms of that style.
Yep.
But what the fuck? Jeff Bridges in Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah, again, wouldn't say it worked, but they're not what hurt that movie. You know what I mean? Like, they're fine, I guess. Sam Jackson and John Travolta, I'm going off these ones with that at the time of release.
Yes.
At the time of release, when Pulp Fiction came out, John Travolta had done Staying Alive, and he'd been kind of dead for a couple of years.
Yeah,
His career was in the dumps. And Sam Jackson at that point had been in, Jurassic Park, a couple of like side parts. He wasn't really the leading man. Them two working together as Hitman and Pulp Fiction, some of the most inspired casting. They're fantastic. My last one that I want to get into, two actors that aren't really great actors at all, but them in this movie, I don't know why, but I found it endlessly enjoyable. Sean William Scott and The Rock in The Rundown.
Oh, yeah.
Two actors that, Stifler and, WWE, wrestler. Yeah.
You smell.
It's so good, though. They worked so well off each other. Peter Berg directed that. Again, that's another movie, too, that just not enough people talk about every once in a while. It's not that good, but it's really entertaining.
It's way better than Walking Tall.
Yes,
that pairing with
Johnny Knoxville. Yep, again.
Full circle, dude.
Full circle.
Wasn't as good, but it was still fun. Yeah, I don't know. I looked at it, both minds of what was interesting, what worked, and then what I want to see. And I've been wanting to see like this brother movie forever.
Okay.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Javier Bardem. They're almost like identical fucking people. It's bizarre, right?
Yeah.
If you look at them like, in passing, oh, fuck, is that guy from No Country? No, that's the father in Supernatural. That's, what's his name on fucking...
The comedian in Walking.
Well, I was going to say the fucking Walking Dead bastard.
Oh, yes, Negan. Yes.
Negan.
Negan. Come on,
I don't watch the show.
Jesus, Jamie.
I would like to see Ben Foster get more of like a good pairing.
Okay.
Nothing against Chris Pine or anybody else he's been with, but I'm like seeing like him against like McConaughey or Matt Damon or somebody of a higher caliber like George Clooney. Mm-hmm. That'd be cool to see.
Sure.
I would love to see that because I think he's in that he's not in that echelon of acting. He really is.
Yeah.
He's just not getting the roles. I mean, this should help. Hell or High Water should help. But man, it's just like he's such a great actor. Like, really. Another potential brother one if they can't get Bardem and Jeffrey Dean.
Hard sell.
You got to go Tom Hardy and Logan Marshall Green.
Oh my God, yeah.
They are twins.
Identical.
Yeah.
Identical.
So Bronson too, if you want to have some twins in there, dude.
Yeah. The invitation to invited back or something like that. A house party.
Two comedic actors who are sometimes known for their dramatic roles, but I don't think they've worked together in a way that really is a substantial outcome.
Okay.
Is Will Ferrell and Jonah Hill.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
In a dramatic movie would be pretty interesting. Because who was that recently did it?
True Story.
True
James
Story.
Franco and Jonah Hill. Yes.
Franco and Jonah Hill.
Yep.
And it's bizarre. I want to see more of that pairing.
Yeah.
Two serious comedians playing serious roles.
Man, it's really strange. I'm trying to think. Have they ever been in a movie together? It's so funny because they work with the same people all the goddamn time.
They don't though. There's like the
Adam Sandler and the Apatow. Yeah.
Yeah. Then there's like the Will Ferrell.
Yeah. One I forgot to mention, I wouldn't say they're good, but it's always interesting when you put Robert De Niro and then some comedy actor, which they've done several times. They did it with Showtime, Eddie Murphy, Meet the Parents, Ben Stiller. I always think just whenever they put Robert De Niro in a movie with some other comedian, I'm always like, this is probably going to be weird, but we'll see how it goes. Michael Caine and Will Smith. That's what I want to see.
Dude.
It's father and son. 6 degrees of separation. I want to see some like actors that have sadly passed that you'd never like. You look back at like who would Chris Farley be starring with right now, or John Candy?
I'm always afraid that Chris Farley would be the Kevin James of today.
I think he's smarter than that though. I think he's a more talented comedian than Kevin James too, and his physicality. I think. You're right, but you're right though. Sadly, he'd probably be the Pixels role.
He probably would have lost weight and done more dramatic roles because he wanted to do more dramatic roles, but he never did.
Yeah, I like when comedians do those dramatic roles with someone like Adam Sandler and Philip Seymour Hoffman in Punch Drunk Love. Like I just love seeing two actors that are great at what they do in their respective genres when they come together and it works. It's very rare, especially now. I feel like they're going further away from that. I feel like studios are now going with safer bets.
Yeah.
Over the last couple of years, I can't really remember a lot of, inspired casting choices that are just like, what the fuck are they in that movie together?
It was weird seeing Robin Williams and Al Pacino together.
Insomnia, yeah. Yep.
Or De Niro and Williams in Awakenings, or that kind of thing.
But please, let us know in the comments, what are some of your favorite casting choices that you've seen so far? Who are some people you want to see in movies together?
Everybody has some, so I want to hear what you guys have.
Next week, we got Sully. Clint Eastwood's coming out.
Sully.
Tom Hanks and Aaron Eckhart.
Yep.
So I think we're in the decent fall section now. So
Oscar season has begun.
we're just about every week's got something that I would like
Yep.
to see. So I think we're going to have a lot more to talk about on the show, which
True
is
story.
good. Not a lot of sad stuff. Please follow us on Twitter. Check out our Facebook page. We're right on Facebook. We Need Movies.
Yep.
And please, yes, comment. Let us know some movies we should watch, some casting choices that you may like.
But that's Brandon,
That's Jamie.
and we need movies.